what do Spotify, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, RadioPublic.com, and Pocket Cast all have in common? Me, the Conversation Piece podcast with Aquila. So go ahead and hit that notification button. Go ahead. I'll wait. All right, back to the show.
It is both surprising and embarrassing that there are no African-American saints from the United States recognized by the Catholic Church. We rarely saw a black priest as a kid coming up. And we had a congregation that didn't have any white people in it, but the priests were all white. All the saints that are depicted are all white. It was very striking to me. And so with 3 friends, we decided that we would come in one day and paint Jesus black. And the statues remained up, and we've been saying for years now that we want to be represented in the church that we've been baptized in. African Americans have been Catholics since the early days of enslavement and have remained through the church through segregation, through mass incarceration and mass poverty, and yet none of us have ever been recognized.
The simple reason why there aren't any black Catholic saints today is that they've only been proposed very recently. A person becomes a saint usually over decades and sometimes even centuries. We have 2 founders of religious congregations for black women, Henriette DeLille and Mary Elizabeth Lange. We have Pierre Toussaint, a layman who helped raise money to build St. Patrick's Cathedral, and yet wasn't even permitted to attend the dedication ceremony because he was a black man. A horrific experience of racism. Julia Greeley in Denver, who was a philanthropist herself with her limited resources, was known for helping the poor. Augustine Tolton, the first openly black ordained priest, and then Thea Bowman, our most contemporary. She would speak to bishops about how they had to pay attention to the black Catholic experience.
Many of those people who attempt to serve among us do not feel an obligation to learn or understand black history or spirituality.
What we're seeing now, post-George Floyd, in terms of racial reckoning, this is the attempt of the Catholic Church to come to terms with its own complicity in racism and slavery. And that is one reason why these particular 6 candidates are being pushed.
It is significant that there are more women candidates that are waiting to be canonized from the African American community than there are men. Women are not permitted to be priests in the Catholic Church. There are more men who have been canonized as saints historically than there are women. The canonizations would be meaningful to us because it would be the acknowledgement of both African Americans and women taking a noted and rightful place in the Catholic Church.
Non possiamo tollerare né chiudere gli occhi su qualsiasi tipo di razzismo o di esclusione.
We decided to launch this letter writing campaign to Pope Francis. Only the Pope can declare who saints are. It wasn't always that way, and in fact, in the ancient church, saints were declared by public acclamation. But over the years, it became a more formal process.
A cause for canonization is like a marketing campaign. The expense of canonization is a perennial problem.
And it's been said that it may be as much as $1 million is required. We don't have the money. So that's why we've called on the Pope to canonize these 6 people immediately.
I do think it's unlikely. I think Pope Francis is going to want to maintain the integrity of the process, although he may rush it.
We shouldn't have to push this hard, but we will. We're going to keep pushing. We've asked the Pope in our letter, if not you, who? Sainthood delayed is sainthood denied.
I'm not Catholic, but I ran across this article that I found interesting concerning black saints. The article was written by Father Brian Massingale, and I would like to share some of it with you. It's entitled, God Made Black Saints, the Church whitewash them. He writes, back in February 21, 2023, last November, I delivered the annual Mother Mary Lang Lecture in Black Catholic Studies at Villanova University. Before our presentation, the university unveiled a painting of St. Augustine of Hippo, the patron saint of the university's sponsors. The university commissioned a young Black artist, Vernon Adams, to create a work of art that depicts the saint as the North African man that he was. It was stunningly beautiful. During the unveiling ceremony, speakers remarked that while there are many images of Augustine on the campus, this was the first time that shows him as a non-European. The painting not only corrects the historically inaccurate portrayal of the saint, but it also witnesses a true universality of the Catholic faith. Our heritage includes Africans who are both scholars of faith and models of holiness. Sadly, this event shows how so much of our Catholic history and faith have been literally whitewashed. Black people have lived lives worthy of emulation. They are among the exemplars of what it means to follow Jesus. Yet most Catholics are unaware that African-descended people have been models of holiness. Perhaps this is why these figures are so poorly known by the nation's Catholics, because an honest look at their lives reveals terrible truths that many, especially white people, would rather not face. And perhaps because they would force us to realize that many of the dynamics and obstacles they had to face have not yet been overcome. Honestly, acknowledging that Black people can be holy exposes the lie that white racism needs in order to keep unjust racial privilege in place. The last paragraph reads, by acknowledging St. Augustine's African origins and likely appearance, Villanova did more than correct the historical record. The painting represents a small step towards recognizing what the Second Vatican Council called, quote, the universal call to holiness. This painting becomes a proclamation of the gospel, the good news that Christ identifies himself with, quote, the least among us. Black lives not only matter, they are holy, they are worthy of imitation and acclaim, and they deserve respect and protection. It is time for the rest of the church to catch up to what God is doing and has already done. An article written by Father Brian Massingale. Father Brian Massingale is a professor of theological and social ethics at Fordham University in New York. He is the author of Racial Justice and the Catholic Church. Hey yo, I know you heard of Spotify, right? It's free to download, and your girl's on there. That's right. So download, search the Conversation Piece Podcast with Aquila, and hit follow. It's that simple. Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Conversation Piece Podcast. I am your humble host, Aquila, requesting that you join me again. So, until then, be safe, love, and value yourself so that you can love and value others. I bid you adieu with the greeting, Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you.